Today I created 2 more looks with the re-released Urban Decay Naked palette. This is now my 3rd video with this palette because you guys just keep requesting more and more looks, and that's what I'm here to do. The 2 looks I created today are more on the neutral side, and I think they would look so good with any eye color. So if you want to see how I did these 2 eye looks in a close-up beginner-friendly tutorial, keep on watching. My eyes are primed and ready for shadow, and I used the P.Louise base in the shade 1, and then I did set that primer with the translucent powder. And then for my brushes today, I am going to be using my Sigma Favorites brush set that has 5 of my go-to eyeshadow brushes in it. I'm going to link my brush set down below in case you want to check it out, and you can use my code AngelaBright to save on Sigma's website. For my first look today, I know for sure that I want to use a Toasted and Hustle, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. I'm going to take Toasted on the E57 for my brush set, and I'm going to pat this shade all over my lid. So I'm really just doing a pressing motion with this shade, and I'm stamping it all the way up into my eye socket, and this is going to give me kind of more of a rounded shape like that. I think this shade is so pretty all over the lid. It's a gorgeous, just like slightly rosy taupey shade. Now I'm going to take the E33 from my brush set with no product on it, and I'm going to start to soften the edges of Toasted. So I'm just kind of blending whatever is in my crease kind of back and forth just to give it a softer look. Now on that same brush, I'm going to pick up Naked, and I'm going to blend Naked throughout my entire crease. Now my crease looks much smoother with that Naked shade and kind of gives a better transition from that Toasted shade going upwards. I think I want to keep this look more on the simple side, so I'm going to go ahead and do my under eye concealer now. And then as always when I blend out my concealer, I use it to kind of clean up this edge of my shadow and just kind of give me a smoother line right there. And then I'm setting that concealer with some translucent powder, and that kind of helps to prime my lower lash line for eyeshadow. Now I'm going to pick up more Toasted on the tip of that E57 brush, and I'm going to run that across my entire lower lash line. These shimmery shades are so pretty along the lower lash line because they're not like sparkly, but they're not too boring. It just adds a little bit of pop down there. And then going back to that E33 brush with a little bit of Naked, and I'm just using that to blend out Toasted and kind of soften it on the lower lash line. Now, if you wanted to do a super easy look, you could totally stop here, pop on your mascara, and call it good. I just think that Toasted shade on the lid and lower lash line is gorgeous, and I think it would look great on any eye color. I haven't really played with the shade Sidecar that much, so I'm gonna take that on my finger. This is probably the most like sparkly shade from the palette, but how gorgeous is that? And I'm gonna tap that on the center of my eyelid. And this is gonna add a little bit more of like a metallic finish to the center of my eyelid. Now I'm gonna pick up a little bit of Hustle on the E27 for my brush set. And I just picked up a little bit of that shadow on the tip of the brush, and I'm just gonna lightly stamp that on the outer part of my lid, kind of in this outer V area, just to start to add some depth to this look. And then I'm also gonna add Hustle to the outer part of my lower lash line. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my face powder on that E33, and I'm just going to kind of smooth that over this outer edge of my shadow, just to kind of clean up these edges a little bit and soften it out. Now on the E42 from my brush set, I'm going to pick up Virgin. That's going to go on my inner corner and a little bit under the brow. Here's what this eye looks like with just mascara. I honestly love this eyeshadow look and just the slightly like taupey rosy shade on my lid. I think it's so pretty, and like this is a look that I could see myself wearing every day with this palette. All right, I went ahead and popped on the lash, and for that lash I'm wearing the Bright Lashes Daydream. Now this lash is a full strip lash, but I cut it to be more of a half lash, so it's just laying right out here on the outer corner, and I just love how fluffy this lash is. And to me, just adding that bit of a half lash makes the whole look so much more glam. Here's the final close-up of the first look. Now let's move on to the second eye look. I don't know exactly what I want to do for the second look, but I know for sure that I want to start with Buck. So I'm going to pick up Buck on the E28 from my brush set. So I picked up the shadow like that on my brush. I think I'm just going to start by patting this on the outer part of my lid, and then I'll softly bring it up towards my crease. I love this brush because you can use it to pack on shadows, but it also has a bit of a fluffiness to it that you can also use it to kind of soften the edges. So I started by placing my brush down on my lid because that's where I want the most pigment, and then I'm bringing my brush upwards to start to blend out that shadow. I am going to build up the shade just a little bit more. I feel like I remember this shade being more warm toned, but it's actually pretty neutral, I feel like, which I'm not mad about. On that same brush, I'm going to pick up Naked, and that shade's going to go more in my inner crease. I'm kind of using the tip of this brush to pack it into my inner crease area. And then I can kind of bring whatever's left over towards the Buck side, since this shade is lighter than Buck, to help to blend it out. But now I kind of have a nice gradient from Naked to Buck. Now I want to place one of the shimmer shades on my lid, and you could kind of use almost any of the shades from the palette. I'm going to go with Sidecar again for this look, just because I thought this shade was so pretty. So again, I picked up that on my finger, and I'm going to pat that on the inner part of my lid. Okay, that like metallic finish is so gorgeous. Because on the other eye, I layered it on top of Toasted, so I didn't really get to see how this looks on its own, but wow, I love that. And I bet if you put some kind of like glitter primer underneath this, you can make it pop even more, but I'm so happy with that. Now I'm just going back to the brush I was using, and I'm just going to tap around that shimmer to kind of soften out the edges. Now I'm going to do my under eye concealer. And then again, when I blend out my concealer, I use that to clean up this edge of the shadow right out here. And then setting with the translucent powder. Now I'm going to go back to Buck on the tip of my E57 from my brush set. So I have the shadow on the tip of my brush like that, and I'm going to run that across my entire lower lash line. Now this edge of my shadow looks a little bit harsh, so again I'm going to take my face powder on that E33 and just use that to soften out the shadow on the lower lash line. And then taking Virgin again on my E42 and popping that in the inner corner and under my brow. I love where this look is at. I just love the neutral brown tones. I think it's so pretty, but I want to try to add Creep as a little bit of a shadow liner, because this shade is like technically kind of like a deep blue, but I want to see how it would work as a liner. So I'm going to take that on a small angled brush, and this brush is not in my brush set, and I'm just going to do a little wing with the shadow. So I always start by stamping the shadow on the outer part of my lash line. And then following the angle of my lower lash line going outwards, I'll draw a line, and then I'll connect that line back in to make a little triangle wing shape. And then I'll just kind of maneuver that shadow around until I'm happy with how it looks. Okay, I do think that Creep shade worked well as a shadow liner. I like that it's not completely black, but it still is a nice shade to do a liner with. Here's what this eye looks like with just mascara. And here's what it looks like with the lash. Again, I'm just wearing the Daydream style cut into a half lash right on the outer corner. And here's a final close-up of this eye look. It's kind of funny looking at these two eyes side by side, because I feel like at first glance, if you were just to look at me, like, you wouldn't really notice that I have two different eye looks on. Like, the overall tone of both looks are very similar, and I just love this more neutral style. It is hard for me to pick a favorite because I just love that Toasted shade all over my lid and on the lower lash line, but Sidecar by itself is also just stunning. Make sure to check out my other two videos with this palette if you want some more inspiration with it. And if you still want to see more looks with this Naked palette, let me know what shades you want to see together. Like, is there a specific color combo you want to see, or you just don't know how to use a specific shadow? Let me know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.